This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Man escapes a robbery and harm on church grounds in Manchester. A man was last night counting his blessings after escaping an armed robber who attacked him as he left a church meeting in the Cedar Grove district in Mandeville. According to preliminary reports, at approximately 7:30 p.m., the man was preparing to leave the church grounds when he was pounced upon by a gunman who demanded the keys to his vehicle. The victim managed to escape in his motor car but was grazed by a bullet after his attacker opened fire. The police are investigating. Tire repairman killed in Manchester. The Manchester police are probing the circumstances surrounding the death of a tire repairman in the parish. The deceased has been identified as Charlie Taylor, 64, of a Midday address. Reports are that approximately 6:30 a.m., residents stumbled upon the body and alerted the police. Taylor was found lying face down in a pool of blood in his front yard. There were no visible signs of wounds according to the police. Cocaine and ammunition seized in St. James, a woman in custody. Investigators from the Narcotics Division are probing the seizure of approximately 24 pounds of cocaine and a quantity of 9mm rounds of ammunition during an anti-narcotics operation in Goodwill District, St. James on Wednesday. One woman was taken into custody. According to police reports, at about 6 p.m., a Toyota Prado motorcar was intercepted at a premises after attempts to elude the police failed. During a search of the vehicle, 10 rectangular-shaped packages containing cocaine were found inside the trunk. A search of the premises occupied by the female, who was the occupant of the vehicle, resulted in a number of magazines and 12 9mm cartridges being found inside a bedroom. The cocaine has an estimated street value of US $550,000. The vehicle was also seized. Scallion killed by gunmen. Montego Bay has lost one of its icons to gunmen as the parish of St. James continues to bleed relentlessly from over 100 murders since the start of the year. Clive Scallion Lee, an expert on watches, chains, and wedding rings, is the latest victim of the onslaught being unleashed on the parish. Lee, 78, who had been a staple of the historic Sam Sharp Square for decades, was revered for his skills, professionalism, and easygoing manner. Reports are that he was attacked at his store at about 9 o'clock yesterday morning. He reportedly tussled with the gunman who shot him in the chest. He died while undergoing surgery at the Cornwall Regional Hospital hours later. His death has sent shockwaves throughout the city, with many of the town's residents jolted by the reality that a new breed of killers has taken over the town. Pained by the news of his death, Montegonians have taken to Facebook to express outrage. The new generation will allow no honor to legends and the stalwarts, said one social media user yesterday evening. Lee taught those who came under his tutelage the art of watchmaking, and those who knew him well speak of how gentle a soul he was. Lee was an active member of the Christian Businessmen Association years ago. It is not clear if that organization still exists. Lawmakers oppose a 24-hour firearm permit declaration loophole. At least 2 members of the Joint Select Committee reviewing the Firearms Act 2022 are opposed to the provision allowing for a period of 24 hours for a firearm holder to produce a permit when stopped by the police. Government Senator Charles Sinclair rejected the provision, which is patterned after the grace period outlined in the Road Traffic Act. "I am just totally against this section," he said during a clause-by-clause review of the bill on Thursday. Sinclair pulled his car keys from his pocket, which has attached an ID holder for his driver's license, to demonstrate the ease with which people can ensure that they have their firearm authorization on their person. The newly added provision in Section 47(3) reads, "Where a person is unable to produce the appropriate firearm authorization when so required under subsection 1, but is able to satisfy a constable as to the person's name, address, and identity, the constable shall permit the person to produce the firearm authorization within 24 hours. Section B provides that if the person presents the authorization, he or she shall not be convicted of an offense under subsection 2. This provision should not even be considered. If you have a firearm and you are going into a public place, you must always be responsible to have your permit with you and to be able to produce it, Sinclair added. Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of National Security, Rohan Richards, said the provision is a huge loophole for persons who are not legitimate firearm holders. There is nothing here about the firearm being detained or the person being detained until they produce the authorization. The discussion in the committee, to my recollection, was that there should be allowance for the firearm to be detained by the constable until the authorization can be produced, but not just the firearm, also the person, Richards argued. Further, he said the deadly capacity of firearms placed a heavy burden on license holders to have their permit in their possession. In response, National Security Minister Dr. Harris Chang said the bill's purpose is to separate criminals from the honest and hardworking citizens. It must be rigid and sensible, but it must not be burdensome. I agree that if he carries a firearm, he should seek to have his license, but it can happen in inadvertent movements, Chang said. The bad man who is gonna give it up like that and drive away and don't come back for it is not enough to penalize the other licensed citizens, he added, saying that it would be considered a seizure of an illegal firearm with the police prepared to track down the owner. Further, Chang said that the police could verify the validity of the driver's license presented through the Smart Check e-ticketing system. Chang said that the police also have access to the records of the Firearm Licensing Authority through the Central Command, a process that takes a maximum of 15 minutes. He said within the next 9 months, the police will have direct access to that database. The Chief Technical Director also expressed a concern that only 40 police stations across Jamaica have the facility to store firearms. Chang said firearms can be kept at any station for 24 hours, and if the owner does not turn up with the license, it should then be sent to storage at any of the specified stations. Normality returning to Spanish Town Market District following deadly violence. Normality is returning to the Market District in Spanish Town, St. Catherine, following Tuesday's shooting spree by gang members which left 3 people dead. Dennis Robotham, president of the St. Catherine Chamber of Commerce, told the news that most business operators have reopened their doors after receiving assurances from the police. Describing the situation in the area as a tense calm, Mr. Robotham noted that there is still apprehension from businesses about a possible reprisal, but he is hoping that the police presence will allow business in the Market District to slowly come back to normalcy. Mr. Robotham has called for more to be done to dismantle criminal gangs, arguing that their activities continue to stunt growth in the business sector in Spanish Town.
I think based on the calmness on the police presence, since that is now present, today is definitely a different day. Nearly every business is open so far, and I think there's a tense calm nonetheless, because there's still apprehension of reprisal and that sort of thing, but with the police presence there, I think that we more or less can slowly, come back to normalcy. The dismantling of these gangs now is paramount to looking at future, not only for Spanish Town, but the entire Jamaica needs to see some serious dismantling that would begin to build the confidence of businesses and the citizenry in general to understand that we're making headway to an inroads into the mindset of these criminals. Because once they go into being quiet for a while, we just accept it and we leave it there. But I think that those are the times when we need to go in and dig deeper and get intelligence and move forward.
Man sentenced to 32 years in prison for car dealer's murder. The second defendant charged in the 2014 murder of car dealer Robert Mendez was sentenced to a total of 32 years in prison when he appeared before the Supreme Court on Thursday. John Jarrett pleaded guilty on Wednesday to murder and illegal possession of a firearm. Jarrett was sentenced to 17 years for murder, but will have to serve 15 years before becoming eligible for parole. He was also sentenced to 15 years for illegal possession of a firearm and ammunition. The other accused, Bertrand Jenkins, was sentenced to 31 years in prison after he was captured in Canada in 2015 and deported to Jamaica. Mr. Mendez, who operated the Payless Car Mart off Maxfield Avenue, was shot inside his office. Suspected charged in connection with a double murder in downtown Kingston. The Kingston West police have charged a 25-year-old man with a murder in connection with a double killing in the Oxford Mall Market in downtown Kingston in February. Paul Dawson, a resident of Pink Lane in Kingston, has also been charged with illegal possession of a firearm and ammunition. He was captured during a police operation on Friday. Carlton Armstrong, a 50-year-old shopkeeper of Bond Street in Kingston, and the 21-year-old Orlando Turner, a farmer of Freeman's Hall, Albertown, Trelawney, were killed in the attack on February 5. About 12:30 a.m., thugs entered the market and shot the two men. Investigators say Mr. Dawson, who was carrying a rifle, opened fire on Mr. Turner. Mr. Armstrong was killed by the other gunmen. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.